everyone. Welcome to my talk about understanding online toxicity through game communities. I guess before we even get started, how many of you play games? Mobile games count? Oh, wonderful. Glad to see that. Yeah, so let's go to the oh, my face is big. This is the obligatory introductory slide. Just gonna stand right in front of my face, because that's... Yeah, so I'm Victoria. I'm the community developer at Kitfox Games. I also help out at a bunch of other Montreal indie game studios like Clever Plays and Spearhead. I've also worked in a lot of different places in terms of marketing and online community. So I've worked with Kaplan Test Prep with their pre-college community in terms of social media. I've done stuff in the hospitality industry as a digital journalist and digital marketing specialist. So yeah, I'm online basically all the time, and the fact that I'm actually not online right now is kind of frightening to me. You can find me on Twitter at @Tran. That's usually the best place to find me, but I'll put my information up later, and you can contact me there. All right, so let's get started. Kitfox Games. So this is just a little bit of a brief intro to it, because I use a lot of examples from Kitfox, because obviously that's where I'm basically always interacting with. So we were founded in 2013. We're 5 full-time people. Moon Hunters is basically our most popular game right now. We've reached 1 million, I think, copies sold on it. And then Shrouded Isle is our 3rd game. That's a cult management simulator. And our 4th game, which we've just... I know. Our 4th game, which we just announced, is called Boyfriend Dungeon. That's the GIF playing here. It's basically a dating simulator dungeon crawling mashup. Yeah, and you can find us on Kitfox Games everywhere on social media except for Instagram, because someone took Kitfox Games. I don't know who. But yeah, so basically what I want to talk about is, of course, video games. This is a chart. One of the things I want to point out is that I'm talking about games, but I don't think it's only applicable to games. I could have talked about the hospitality industry or education, which I've worked in, but I found games to be the most interesting in terms of community, because it's so dependent on having a community behind it, especially with games like these, because they're mainly multiplayer games. It's okay if you don't recognize most of them. It's just know that more than half, I think, of these games are multiplayer, and they depend on people interacting with you online. And sometimes they're strangers, and sometimes it's through voice chat. You can usually scroll through YouTube comments. You can't scroll through a voice chat. I mean, you can mute them, but then the game's different, and we're not going to go into that. So one of the things about games is that there's a really passive acceptance, I find, from the public and from gamers themselves, that the community is very toxic. We do have our problems. There has been Gamergate, which is something that you should definitely look up if you're interested in online toxicity. Doxing, which is posting someone's public information online. We've had a lot of problems. But I don't think that having this passive attitude towards any community is really forward-thinking, basically. We have to tackle it. Second of all, games, they're just like tech in any sphere, really. It's evolving. We have VR, so virtual reality, and that's fast-changing how we interact with our communities. And basically, games are a social culture activity. A lot of people who are involved in games think of it as part of themselves. They identify as gamers or something. And so that's why when communities come together, it's really important that you understand online toxicity and how you can maybe prevent it and move towards a more wholesome community, basically. All right, so to get started, this is the universe / the internet. I like to usually, when I think of developing communities, I like to think of it in the way of world building. So this is a very popular term in anything fiction related. It's where you create the political system, the religious system, the people, the rules, anything. So in our world building world, the internet is basically like the universe. There's dark corners in there, not really sure what goes on, not really sure I want to know, but it's there. And you choose a planet that you want to inhabit. So for me, it's the games industry. For you, it might be something different. Overall, it's a big sphere, and there's a lot of different people in it. And you choose your country that you basically built yourself. So your company, or maybe you've joined this country and you decide that you're the one who's helping them build their community. The different thing about this is basically that you don't get to choose the people that are a part of it. You get to set the rules, though, so that's fun. And you get to set the norms, the social structures, and it's basically just really important to understand what you're doing in this sphere. Because on the planet, obviously, there's different countries, they have different rules, they have different ways of doing things, and they have different, like, basically responsibilities, or what they think is the responsibilities. And you have people moving in and out of your community/country all the time, and what you do in this community matters. So one of the things that Boyfriend Dungeon is all about is we're trying to do an inclusive sexuality kind of dating simulator. This guy's my favorite. Honestly, I didn't even need the slide, I just wanted to show off him. Yay! Yeah, so one of the internet theories, I took this, and this was super popular at the time. This is like a really standard internet theory when it comes to why online toxicity happens. Also, there's swearing in this talk. Sorry, didn't warn you. If you don't like it, I can block this off for you. Yeah, so this is from Unreal Tournament 2004. It's a really, it was, I guess, a really popular game. It was very competitive, and there was online chat, basically, text and voice. So it's a really competitive environment. The tension's really high. And basically, someone named John Gabriel thought of the greater internet fuckwad theory. And the theory is basically that you take a normal person, you take the anonymity of the internet, and the audience, and an audience that would listen to them, and you would get a total fuckwad. Most people on the internet blame the fact that you could be anonymous, right? You've heard it. No one knows who you are. You have like a weird username, like Yellow Swag Jesus or something. And, and then you just say whatever you want because you can, and there's someone listening to you. I think this theory's wrong. Well, not wrong, but I think it needs some work. So this is what I think is the reason for the online toxic behavior. You have a normal person. You have the anonymity of the internet. Oh, I don't like that word. And you have an audience that's very tolerant towards these kinds of attitudes. From my experience, I've seen a lot of games, a lot of forums kind of fall through the cracks in terms of online toxicity because there haven't been a lot of set rules in terms of how they expected their community to interact with each other. Just like how when we got the tote bags from women tech makers, which by the way are very nice, you had a rule sheet in there. And maybe you didn't read it, which is okay, but it's there. And so there are rules to this conference. Anyways, so you take all those three things, and that's how you get your total fuckwad. So in order to fix this, I thought of my own kind of theory through the experiences that I've had, and that's how to create a normal person out of anyone, really. So you can get a total fuckwad on the internet. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe, honestly, there's a language barrier, because that happens. There's a lot of slang, or there's a lot of different ways that people think is acceptable to interact online. So you take one of those people. You can have the anonymity of the internet. But the thing that changes is, one, you have social facts, and they're known social facts. So you might think that it's really obvious that you shouldn't harass someone online. And someone might think that they know that you shouldn't harass someone online, but I've realized lots of people have very different definitions of what harassment entails. And they're not aware of it. So you have known social facts, and those are things like the values and the norms that you want to instill in your community. And with that, an intolerant audience attitude towards those kinds of harassment, online toxic behaviors, basically. And then you'll get your normal person. Yay! Yeah, so I'm actually going to talk about social facts and intolerant audience and why you actually get that normal person. So first is social facts. And by social facts, again, I mean the norms and values that you bring to your community. This is a screenshot of the Kitfox Games Discord server. If you don't know what Discord is, it's basically like Slack. It's a chat room that anyone can join and talk more directly to game developers. And the minute you enter the Kitfox Discord, there is a rules page that I've written. again, not everyone, I understand it's on the internet, not everyone reads it, but it's there. And the fact that it's the first thing you see when you join the Kitfox Discord means that this isn't a place that I'm just going to let you do whatever you want, troll everyone, spam the Discord server, etc. Having things like this is really important because it lets them know, again, that you have set rules for this. And I'm not saying that they can't have discourse, disagree with what we've done, criticize, maybe a choice that we've made that they don't like. I'm saying that there's a respectful manner in which you can do that. And again, it seems really obvious. It's not. It's not in any way, shape, or form on the internet. So here's another one. This is from Mixer. So this is a live streaming service. I think it's Microsoft's live streaming service, and they are also very clear about their terms of service. Their competitor, Twitch, didn't have as much of a clear terms of service, and they kind of got a lot of slack for that, and then they changed the terms of service, so now it's great, or should be better. Because with online streaming, there's a lot of things where you call them titty streamers, basically, and there's a lot of criticism, there we go, from people who basically thought that girls were getting viewers because they had low-cut tops and they were on the camera. Mixer made sure that you couldn't just criticize those girls for wearing whatever they wanted, basically, which is awesome. So rules like this often can't be followed to a T. Sometimes there are very nuanced situations, and people often tend to fall back on what they know or what they think is comfortable, but that's totally okay. It's just that, it's not okay, but you have to apply the rules and make sure they're not just guidelines, they're rules. Finally, we have norms, or kind of the intolerant attitudes that you might have. Intolerant attitudes from the audience towards harassment, trolling, etc. So this was an interesting Kitfox experiment we did with Twitch, again, the live streaming service. And basically, chat could type in a coordinate into, anyone on the internet could type into chat a coordinate, and it would go on the screen, basically. As you can see, and to our surprise, because this was on for 48 hours, and we didn't get thousands of people, we did get hundreds of people. There's no, penises on here, right? We were shocked. But actually, so when we went through it, we realized, and this is what I love the Kitfox little community that we have, is that we had actually a brief swastika and a brief penis on this canvas, but within an hour, our community had gone in and just drawn over it, because they didn't like that kind of stuff on the canvas, and they didn't want other people to see it. And because you don't see it on here, it kind of had a snowball effect where no one else really wanted to do that and ruined the canvas. This is where your intolerant audience comes in. It's really important to have this kind of community that supports you and understands what you want, because they're the ones helping you make the community special and awesome and whatever you like it to be. Great. So this is taken from the creative director of Kitfox. She did a talk about creative direction, basically, and I thought it applied really well to community direction. So what you're trying to do, what you're trying to make, I want to keep these 6 things in mind. So ambition, decisiveness, clarity, collaboration, consistency, and energy. And then you can basically understand how you can direct your community and all that. And I've had some people talk about how they think it's almost kind of like censorship, but I disagree in terms of that technology. It's really hard to make it really neutral, I suppose. People are not neutral. They have their own biases. So it's better to set your rules clear and make them understand that. So ambition. Do I plan for and demand the best of my platform and community? So a lot of people like the internet, and they think that it should be you should be able to say whatever you want. And I think that that's really important too. But things like Reddit, where there's a subreddit for everything, they took out the revenge porn subreddit because that wasn't in line with what they wanted. So know what you want from your platform. Decisiveness. Do I make decisions quickly? Waiting around and trying to decide what you want to do. Do I ban this person? It might like hurt us economically, like all those kinds of things. That says a lot to your community, and trust me, the community doesn't like it when you're being indecisive about what's happening. Clarity. Are my community expectations expressed and seen as clearly as possible? Again, so this is like the Discord when you would first join it. Is it actually clearly seen? Can they access it really easily? Is it like under like thousands of paragraphs of terms of service, basically? It's really important that they know that it's there, essentially. Collaboration. Am I working with my team and community? Again, this is all about the audience. It's really important that you have them there working with you and for you, because especially with like online multiplayer games, a huge thing that we have is obviously moderation, and it will cost you economically to hire moderators, to have moderators, but your community is where they can jump in and help you out, because really with like millions of people, you can't hire millions of moderators. Though that'd be really interesting if you did that. Consistency. Do I actually know what I want and why? Especially with games and sometimes other online platforms, you have influencers and stuff, and if you apply your rules differently, depending on how much money they make you or how much they might cost, your community will notice and they won't like that, and that might breed its own kind of toxic behavior and criticisms. So know what you want, apply it equally to everyone. And energy. Do I bring positivity to my community and lead by example? It's one thing to have rules. It's another thing to actually have someone be in charge of it and own up to it. It's honestly not worth your time if you're just going to write something and not actually be accountable for it. And also if you're being a hypocrite. There's a lot of times where I've seen a lot of community developers kind of fall through the cracks and get really angry online, and then it's a mess. So make sure you're basically showing everyone how you want them to interact within your community. And finally, learn, grow, adapt. This is not super foolproof. There's always going to be like little things that the internet's too big in order to have a general rule to apply to everything. But I think it's a good way to learn about your community, grow from it, make mistakes, it happens, and adapt. Thank you. Questions?
Any questions?
That's cool.
When you have your community, how do you do education? Like, do you do some kind of awareness towards harassment or something like that, or you just put the rules and they comply to them?
So, as in like, how do I continually, like when we get new members, how do I make them aware of the rules?
For example, maybe nobody is as woke,
yeah.
if I use the term, and sometimes there's an education that needs to be done.
Yeah.
Do you have a way to do it on your platform, or do you just try to like direct them to other sites where they can get the information? Because what I've seen, and I used to moderate a Facebook group, and it is so hard to get somebody in the same baseline for what harassment is, for why it's bad to say sexist things or transphobic, etc. And they don't just know it. So how do you get everybody in the same baseline, or at least not that far from it?
Yeah, so that's actually a super difficult thing to do in any community, I think, as you've probably found from moderating a Facebook group. So yeah, you can have like those rules once someone enters, like a pinned post on a Facebook group, but that's not necessary that everyone knows. And there's no perfect solution for it that I know of anyway. Maybe if someone does, let me know. But basically, it's all about treating them as human beings and understanding that basically fighting fire with fire doesn't help. I've seen a lot of people like, say maybe something sexist and it sucks and I get really mad, but I can't respond in the like, hey, you're being dumb. You have to basically tell them, hey, this is why it's wrong, and if they don't understand that or they're not willing to talk to you and learn about it, then that's what the block button's for.
Following up with your last response about about staying calm when someone says something, kind of crappy, and you explain to them why it's wrong. What do you do to deal with becoming exhausted of telling people why it's wrong? Like, especially when it's the same thing over and over again. How do you deal with like just not getting just so sick of it that you just get mad?
Oh yeah. Oh, oof. That's hard. No. Well, one, it's my job. So there's that writing on that. But honestly, it's talking to other people in my position. I talk to a lot of other community managers and developers in Ubisoft or just in basically the indie scene. It's talking with them. It gets exhaustive, so sometimes I'll just actually stop going on social media for a while and like just go on it for work, and it still gets exhausting, but it's important, I think, to find other outlets to just treat yourself, basically. Go outside, go for a walk. Even in the middle of the workday sometimes, I'll see a comment, I'll be really frustrated, I get up, I go outside, I don't respond to it for a while. They can wait like 20 minutes, 30 minutes for you to respond. As much as I say decisiveness, also take care of yourself. Oh.
Just to go on the earlier question,
Yes.
How do you deal with like multilingual, like non-English? If there's like, culture definitely, but obviously different languages that you can't really monitor all that well.
Yeah, those are definitely really hard. If you have the resources for it, honestly, having people who speak different languages, or there's a lot of outsourcing companies that basically can do customer support in different languages. But yeah, that's definitely very difficult. And I would say with that, it's having really basic, simple language that hopefully they can understand. Because if they are joining at least a really English-based company or a French-based company, they hopefully know enough about it. If they don't, then honestly, I've had my community who speaks different languages, they can help you in many ways. Asking them for help, like being like, sometimes in the Discord, I'll be like, I don't know how to speak Russian. Does anyone know how to speak Russian? Can you help me? Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
In fact, my question is joining her comment because do you know if there is any effort to do some artificial intelligence in that? Because for me, I think that it's better to have kind of robot do the as a moderator than a person, because I see in the first page that they need to contact you, but you can be traveling, you can not be available, so it will. And even in Facebook, we see some pictures and some comments that I think it's a great area where we should have some automatic controls, better than having a person and the language issue, the time to intervene, and even it will be for the community, they will trust the robot because he will react for every command depending on who is the member. So do you know if there are any efforts? Because I see it as an opportunity for to have a robot.
Yeah, so I guess your question is, wouldn't it be better to have AI or robots basically moderating? Yes, to a degree. So you can block certain words, like in the Twitch chat that we did, we blocked racist terms. But the problem with robots is that they can't get sarcasm or nuanced situations. In some respects, saying something to your friends might, if I call if I say fuck to a friend, it's not the same degree as saying fuck you to a stranger. And robots can't. You don't want to get in the way, well, at least with games for sure. You don't want to get in the way of someone's fun, basically, and how they talk normally. So I think robots are good in terms of really basic moderation, but you will need a human person behind it. Just like how sometimes YouTube algorithms get things wrong, and there's been a lot of flack for that in terms of like suggested content and all that. So yeah, I'd say maybe like half robot, half people.
One last question.
Oh.
It's not really a question. I just wanted to comment a little bit about, like the earlier question about when you talked about moderating Facebook groups. I do that too. I'm also a developer for a mobile game, so we have a very big community online that is playing our game. And I found that it's very helpful to plant seeds around. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of a seed that was planted as well for the Facebook group, for example. I got engaged. It was a Facebook group about feminism mostly. I got so engaged that the moderators invited me to be a moderator as well, and we keep just planting seeds and having friends, even though we don't know each other, to help us maintain the quality and the behavior, the good behavior in the community. And it actually turned out super great. It's been 3 years, and the group is so calm now. It's amazing. Anything that happens, they report it to us. It's amazing. And I've been seeing this with our game as well. It's a mobile game, and we had like the official page on Facebook. We've been live for a bit over a year now. And it's just a Facebook page, and people were commenting there and saying, oh, I play it, and I do this and that. And some players actually got together and made their own group about the game, which is amazing. So the company got in contact with them, and we exchange information, and we talk about it, and they help us. They help us create the positivity. They help us get actual feedback and improve. And I guess this relates a lot to a lot of the other talks that we had before. How about, creating change by influencing people around you, and them helping you by influencing the people around them as well, and growing this. And Victoria, I admire you so much because you do it by yourself pretty much, so congratulations. Thank you. Okay, last. Okay.
So I had a question. Do you have any suggestions for how someone who's like participating in a community but maybe doesn't have access to like setting rules for it or banning someone, like how to just like improve norms or try to like set the tone for better kind of social?
Well, I guess it depends on how. See, the problem is you have to also make sure that the community developer themselves, if you're not the community developer, that they're open, again, ties into the last talk, feedback. So yeah, if they're open to feedback, I know I totally am in terms of how basically I run the Discord. A good community developer will understand that, oh, this person isn't trying to like criticize me. They want the Discord or the group to be better. So you can, there's usually volunteer opportunities, like again with moderators. If you want to volunteer to be a moderator, that's a really good way to set the tone. And honestly, just doing it yourself. I know that when I see different people in my Discord like helping me out, I really appreciate it. And I talk to them more. It's just reaching out to the team maybe that is in charge of it and talking to them and asking them, hey, how can I help? Or hey, I saw this and it'd be great if we could do this instead. Cool. Is that it? Yeah. Cool. Thank you.